All right, so since I was 5 years old, I've been a fan of the Washington Commanders. So I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, Joe Gibbs era. Like Jack Pardee was the first coach I remember, like pre Joe Gibbs. So this is not an objective interview. I'm just telling everyone right now, not a journalist. This is not an objective interview. Everyone knows I bleed the burgundy of gold. Hail the Commanders, hail victory. Coach Ron Rivera, let me ask you this. As you assess, we're here at the Combine, and we're about ready to enter free agency. As you assess the team from last year and you think about the team needs for this year, I'm curious where your focus is. As a fan, I think where we should focus, but you tell me. I'm curious how you assess your team needs going into this offseason.
Without getting too far into the weeds and letting people know what we're really thinking, we know there's a couple areas that we have to most certainly fix up on the offensive side. Very, very excited about who our playmakers are. We really like that group of guys. Wide receivers, being led by Terry McLaurin, and you got Jahan Dotson and Curtis Simmons. I mean, three guys that give you some real good playmakers with some good depth behind them. At the tight end position, we feel really strongly about who Logan is for us. We believe he's going to come back even better. He had a good year last year coming off the knee, but we think now he'll be back, and we got some good young talent behind him.
Yep.
And then at running back, we saw the 1-2 punch we had, with B-Rob and Antonio Gibson. I mean, two young men who can carry it. Big question, obviously, is Sam Howell going to be our guy? We like what we got from Sam, especially in the Dallas game. We think this is an opportunity for a young guy to come in as the number one quarterback to start off and see if he can earn the right to be our number one guy. We got to find some quality veteran depth there to challenge him and to help him along the way as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would love to see some offensive line help for the team as we talk about the offense. But let's talk about Sam Howell for a second. So you've been out there. You've said that he's going to start as QB1. He's going to have the opportunity to win the job. Tell me a scenario in which Sam Howell is not starting for the Commanders week 1.
Well, we're trying to find veteran help. We know who Taylor Heineke is, the guy we'd like to have back, be part of what we're doing. But if you don't do that, another guy we got to go out and we got to find another guy to come in and compete as well. So we want it to be competitive because, again, they're going to push each other. Whoever the other quarterbacks are going to be, they've got to push Sam and help develop him. And at the same time, if they push him and they beat him, then so be it. But that's the way we're going to approach it. This is an open competition.
Was there ever a thought last year at any point to giving Sam a start earlier in the season as well, based on what you'd sort of seen and maybe the way the season was going?
Well, the way the season was going on up until the
Cleveland game.
The Cleveland game. Well, actually, the loss to San Francisco.
Right.
We were in the middle of it all the way through.
Yep.
Got to win the Cleveland game. Taylor didn't play the way we want to. He was beat up a little bit. And we bring Carson in. He had a terrific fourth quarter. And I thought, now maybe he's back and he's out of that little funk that he had. And unfortunately, it wasn't. And that day, that's on me because that was the decision I made was to go with Carson. But going forward, looking at what was coming up against Dallas, it was time to find out about Sam. Could we have played him a little bit sooner? Maybe. But nothing really said we had to do it at that point. And trying to stick with what we had in terms of the veteran guys, that was my thinking was.
Yeah, no, it's tough because on the one hand, hasn't gone exactly how you wanted, but you're right. You guys win Cleveland and you're in the playoffs.
Yes.
And so that's a tough spot to throw a rookie into. I want to talk about Antonio Gibson. Kind of a weird year for Antonio Gibson. There were rumors coming out in the preseason last year that he'd lost his job. We're using him on special teams. Then the unfortunate incident with Brian Robinson. I've been clear on this show that Brian Robinson should have won Comeback Player of the Year last year.
Yes.
I don't understand how a rookie's not eligible, but he should have given what he came through. But seems like you guys found a role for Antonio once you had Brian. You mentioned the 1-2 punch. As Eric Bieniemy comes in here, who uses pass-catching running backs in his offense, what can we expect from Antonio this year?
Well, I think from really pretty much all of our running backs, the opportunity to get out and catch the ball out in space as well. We saw how good Brian Robinson was once he had the ball in his hands against Atlanta. For Antonio, it's going to be a little bit more natural for him because he played wide receiver coming out of college.
Memphis.
And he had a great stat. 1 out of every 9 times he touched it, he took it for a touchdown. He touched it 90 times.
Right.
So, that's a heck of a deal right there. So we know he's capable of it. I know Eric Bieniemy knows he's capable of it. And the way they use the backs in Kansas City really appealed to me. It was one of the things that I thought, man, that's another way to get the ball to the playmakers' hands. And using those guys out of the backfield as much as you can, I thought would be a really good mix for our guys.
Yeah, that was one of my follow-up questions. Was we did see towards the end, especially I think I remember the Falcons game where Brian Robinson caught the touchdown pass and goes to the end, just an unbelievable touchdown catch and run, huge score for us against the Falcons. My question is was when you interviewed Coach Bieniemy, was that something that came up? Part of my question was, hey, is Robinson going to be more involved in the passing game? But talk to me a little bit more about Bieniemy's philosophy and what he sold you on to come to the Commanders.
Well, one of the really neat things about what happened was I had the opportunity to go back, watch their game tape from the season, but also get an opportunity to watch what they were doing in the postseason. And everything they were doing was appealing. Because, one of the things that I did was I slowed down this process to find our OC. And one of the things I had gone through and talked with, Martin Mayhew, Marty Herney, Eric Stokes, all of our people in that leadership position, talked with Jason Wright, and then informed ownership that this is what I wanted to do. They were all supportive. Everybody thought, we got to get to Eric and see what happens. Well, I watched their games. I kept watching the postseason games. I kept seeing how explosive they were and dynamic they were because they were spreading the ball around, getting it to the backs, getting it to the receivers, getting it to the tight ends, and they were making plays, and that was, I found, very appealing.
What would you say, by the way, this is not a criticism I agree with, by the way, but what would you say to the criticism that, yes, Bieniemy called a great game because he has Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, and he's got Travis Kelce, and he's previously had Tyreek Hill, and he's had these amazing playmakers. We've got some playmakers on the team, but we don't have Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah. There's 31 teams in the NFL that don't have Patrick Mahomes. What would you say to people that say, hey, well, he hasn't done it without an elite quarterback?
Well, you can say that about anybody.
Right.
I mean, how many people have you seen just take an average guy and win a Super Bowl? I mean, let's be honest about that.
Right.
Let's be fair about that. Now, the nice thing about guys like Eric is it's an unknown. Let's find out about him. The guy's been doing it. He had a 10-year run in Kansas City that was tremendously successful. He's 5 years as a coordinator. He's grown, he's learned, and he's been under the tutelage of Andy Reid, one of the all-time, in my opinion, Hall of Fame
1,000%
head coaches in this league. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and it's because of who Coach is. And I think, again, Andy Reid rubs off on you. I was fortunate enough to be on the staff. My first 5 years as a positional coach was with Coach Reid, and a lot of things that I learned from him I use today.
Did you talk to Coach Reid before?
Yes. Now, I've picked up two of his coordinators now.
Okay.
He let Sean McDermott come to me in
Carolina,
2011.
yeah.
Becomes my coordinator. Sean builds a heck of a defense, okay? And a lot of people, it's not his. No, he comes in, builds his defense, does it the right way, and look at him today. And talking to Coach and listening to him talked about Eric, and he kept saying, Ron, the biggest thing he needs to do is to be with you. Be with the defensive guy and let everybody know just how great he is. And just listening to Coach talk about that really helped me in my decisions to pursue Eric and to make him our assistant head coach.
Getting a stamp of approval from Andy Reid, and I also thought it was nice to see all the players come out on social media that played for him, that defended him when LaShawn McCoy tried to take a shot. One question for you then, in terms of when you and Coach Bieniemy talked, did he talk to you about offensive philosophy in terms of what he saw with the Commanders' playmakers? Because as you talked about, with McLaurin, with Gibson, with Robinson, with Dotson, there's some guys for him to play with.
There really are. And what was really neat was one of the things that we did when we got there was we went up to the board, we looked at our entire roster on the offensive side, we talked about what he wanted to do, talked about what he saw up front, and to your point about that, he talked about the playmakers, and he talked about how to get the ball into their hands and what he saw and what he envisioned, and that really was the thing that just sold me on it, was listening to him, that he had an idea just looking at it going, got to get him in space and put him in this type of position. We can run the ball doing these things with these guys. And over here with the speed, we can challenge them vertically, and then we can work underneath through. And he just had this feel for it already, and which led me to believe that he's already looked at tape on us. He's looked at the guys and said, hey, this is pretty good. But then when we talked about Sam and how incorporating Sam's abilities and his ability with a quick release, his ability to get the ball vertical, make the throws, you feel real comfortable and positive about
One of the things that obviously he did really effectively in Kansas City was use the tight end. Now it helps when that tight end is Travis Kelce, obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you mentioned Logan Thomas coming back stronger. Do we expect to see Logan more involved in the offense, especially given Eric's calling the plays?
I would like to believe so. I believe that, Logan come back, have that camp that we're expecting him to have, and then some of the young guys behind. We've got some guys that are tremendous catch radiuses that we've got to get the ball to these guys. And, Cole Turner's a young name that comes to mind. Ronnie Rogers, another guy who played a lot for us last year. Those two guys did a tremendous job for us and showed that they have that kind of catch radius. And then John Bates is a guy who's a solid blocker, but he understands where he needs to be at the right time. So we've got 4 guys that we think can do some things by committee. I'm not saying that gives us Travis Kelce, but it gives us a viable target for our quarterback.
Yeah, which I think is important, obviously, in his offense and for a young quarterback as well. 2 last questions for me, Coach, and I appreciate the time very much. Obviously, it's been in the news a lot that the Commanders are potentially for sale, that Mr. Snyder's exploring the opportunities for a sale. Have you, when you talk to Martin, when you talk to the leadership, when you talk to the Snyders, has a potential sale impacted free agency or how you guys are thinking about addressing that?
No, it hasn't. The one thing that has.
If there's I'm going to ask another way. If there's a big money guy that you guys feel can help the team, have you guys been said, like, go get him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's one thing that I truly appreciate is throughout this entire process, their support for football has not waned. The stuff off the field, they've handled, they've taken care of. I've tried to keep our guys focused just on the football aspect. But going forward, we finished the season. I did the updated report on the team. Then I came back with the plan going forward. And then we went through the budget going forward. And everything was, Ron, if this is the targets, go get them. These are the things that we need to have for this football team. You go get them. Because, again, if this team gets sold or not, we got to be able to be ready to keep going forward, and that's what we plan to do. So, again, coming here, looking at these college players, get ready for free agency. We have a plan, we have a budget we're allowed to use, and we're going to use it.
And is that something that has come up as you've been talking with agents and you've been talking with other people around the league, and that's something?
And the coaching candidates.
Yeah.
I got that question, and one of the things that I told them, I said, look, I've been told I have the authority to go out and do the things that I need to do to get this team ready to play next year, and so that's what we're going to do. That's what, talking with Martin, talking with Marty, talking with Eric Stokes, we've been planning, Matthew, and that's the thing I appreciate. In the midst of what they're dealing with, I appreciate the support that we've got because it gives us a chance to plan for the future and not sit here and worry and wonder.
I have one last question for you, Coach, and I don't know how you've been able to do this, and so I would love any insight you give me, because I don't believe any coach in the history of professional sports, let alone the NFL, I don't believe any coach in the history of professional sports has had to deal with the off-the-field distractions you have had. Every single day it feels like there's another story coming out, another allegation, there was one yesterday from ESPN. How have you been able to keep the noise out and keep the focus on football when every other question, I'm sure, is about things that aren't related to football?
Well, first of all, our media relations department has been tremendous. Those folks have been wonderful. What both Sean and Gene have done for us in terms of helping us to compartmentalize things, keep things separate, and as I like to express to our players, let's focus on what's important for football. Everything else is just interesting, and let's don't make the interesting important. So we stay focused on what we got to do on the field. It's a mantra that we continue to use. Do I have to deal with it? Yes, but I understand where it fits in the big scheme for us. If we can do that and continue to do that, our guys seem to be able to relish that opportunity last year to stay focused on it, and they did a good job for the most part.
Well, I appreciate it. Listen, Coach Rivera, I'm a Commanders fan through and through. My fans know it. I've been very blatant about it, so I appreciate it. Good luck this offseason. Can't wait to see next season. Hail the Commanders. Hail victory.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, Coach. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.